persevere. According to Merriam-Webster, to persist in a state, enterprise, or undertaking in spite of counter-influences, opposition, or discouragement. From the original Latin, perseverus, to abide by strictly. It came through late Middle English, it came through French, cycled down to us. Synonyms: persist, continue, carry on, go keep going, struggle on, hammer away, be persistent, be determined, see it through, follow through, keep at it, press on, move ahead, do not take no for an answer, be tenacious, stand one's ground, stand firm, stand fast, hold on, go the distance, stay the course, plod on, stop at nothing, leave no stone unturned, staying power, indefatigability, say that, indefatigability, ooh, that sings, indefatigability, doggedness, obstinacy, tenacity, purposefulness, patience, endurance, diligence, dedication, and commitment. Whew. My beloveds, we are living through a time of reckoning. We are living through a time witnessing some of the unfiltered worst we humans are capable of. It seems like that's been happening a lot, well, relentlessly lately, over the last while. And yes, while it's the worst some of us can remember, it is not the worst humanity has been. Not by a long shot. To persevere, to persist in a state, enterprise, or undertaking in spite of counter-influences, opposition, or discouragement. The thing I try to remember is this. When the shadows are the deepest, the starkest, the harshest, that means somewhere there is a very bright light. And sometimes we get all caught up at looking at these shadows that would seem to just want to reach up and swallow us, instead of looking toward where that source of bright light must be, if the shadow is that deep. And I say, look in that direction. Look in that direction. Look in that direction for clues to holding steadfast through trouble and through disappointment and through despair. Look in that direction for clues to pressing on despite the obstacles, the discouragement, the counter-influences at hand. For me, looking in that direction often means looking to those who did indeed transform the world in times of trouble, despite the relentless unholiness of the obstacles they faced. I look in the direction of Mahatma Gandhi, who carried his people in India to liberation from British Empire through non-violent revolution. It took 21 years, and 6 of those he was in prison. Strength, he said, does not come from winning. Your struggles develop your strength. When you go through hardships and decide not to surrender, he said, there is your strength. I look in the direction of Nelson Mandela. In South Africa, he was called to walk upon this earth like Gandhi. He found himself too imprisoned for his determination to bring his people out from bondage of empire. In his time, the bondage was called apartheid. His destiny was not only to free those who were oppressed by apartheid, but also the hearts and souls of the oppressors. Knowing that until all of us are free, none of us are free. His goal was not only to free his people, but to free those who had oppressed them from the prejudice and the racism and the hatred and the bondage of their own thinking. I am fundamentally an optimist, Mandela insisted. Whether that comes from nature or nurture, I cannot say. Part of being optimistic is keeping one's head pointed toward the sun, one's feet moving forward. There were many dark moments when my faith in humanity was sorely tested. But I would not and could not give up myself to despair. In that way lays defeat and death. Perhaps my favorite Mandela teaching is this very simple equation. I never lose. I either win or I learn. I look in the direction of Rosa Parks and Winona LaDuke and Tammy Duckworth and Laverne Cox and Ruby Bridges and Malala Yousafzai and Betty Osceola and Susan B. Anthony and Harriet Tubman and Ava DuVernay and Erin Brockovich and Catherine Vagel and Olympia Brown and Maya Angelou, who said, "You may encounter many defeats, but you must not be defeated." In fact, it may be necessary to encounter the defeats so you can know who you are, so you can know what you can rise from, and how you can still come out of it. And in the past couple of weeks, I looked toward a community of teenagers who looked terror in the eye and have now risen to face down the moral depravity that would make of them a sacrifice to the gods of greed and the lust for power. Can I get an amen? Amen. And now they rise and say, no, not this time, not today, not my people, not one more, never again. Can I get an amen for that? Amen. And I will stand with them wherever they ask me to go. And I also look to the teachers who got up the next day and went to take care of their kids, not knowing what they might face. And they did it again the next day, and they did it again the next day, and the next day, and they'll do it tomorrow like they've been doing it all their lives. That's who I look to right now. To persevere. To persist in a state, enterprise, or undertaking in spite of counter-influences, opposition, and discouragement. I have no doubt that every one of us in this room has persevered in the face of tremendous obstacles thrown in our paths. Some of you facing those obstacles this very morning. And I think most of us underappreciate that fact for ourselves and for one another. Think about that for a minute. Sometimes we are very aware of what it takes to get up and try again today. Sometimes we're not, we just do. And we don't give ourselves credit for it. I'd like for you to think for a moment about a time or a couple of times along your way that you came up against an obstacle that you thought at some point you might not be able to overcome, or go around, or under, or over, or through to where you are today. Could be your heart was broken And you had to find a way to get up again, keep moving. Could be your elbow was broken, and you had to learn to eat with the wrong hand. Perseverance comes in many forms. And each time it comes for us, it builds strength for the next time, for a worse time. How did you make it through? What did you do? What did you hold on to? Or maybe there's someone in your life that has set the example for you of how to make it through. Someone who has encountered, endured, and survived the kinds of obstacles you look at for yourself and say, no way I could do that. And there they are again today. How are they doing that? How did they inspire you? What did they teach you? Did you just watch or did you ask? Are you watching someone now? Have they asked? Have you asked them? Is someone watching you to see how you're coming through when they fear they may not be able to? Think about that one. Hold that story, your story, in your heart. Give yourself credit for it. Hold that other someone that has set the example for you. Hold them in your heart. Hold that story. Take in its strength. Take in their strength. Borrow it until you get your own. Someone may need to borrow from you. As the universe would deliver things right on time, I saw a post this morning from our son Alex. He loves to post things our granddaughter Ava says. She's 4. And over breakfast today, she said, when I was in the stars, God told me if I wanted to lift heavy things, I would have to make a muscle. Where's your muscle? And now, if you will, take a moment, turn to someone near you, share one of those stories. And if you're not in the mood for that today, sometimes we come into a group of people to be by ourselves in a group of people. I understand that. I do it too. If you're not up for sharing today, then offer your ear to someone near you that they might share one of their stories. I'll call you back in a minute. There's another place I look for light when the world's shadows threaten to take me over. And it's a place that you may look to. I look to this faith. I look to Unitarian Universalism. I look to its hope in this congregation, in this beloved community at River of Grass Unitarian Universalist Congregation. My, what a name to live into. And you have been doing that for 19 years. I look to the ones who had a vision this very week, all those years ago, and set about to make it real. The ones who said, we need a house of liberal religion in Western Broward County, and then realized, oh, it's going to be up to us to grow that and sustain it. and sustain it some more, adding rings to that tree of life. The ones who stayed through changes, the ones who stayed through challenges, the ones who persevere through the peculiarities of human relationship that arise in religious community because we are humans, and anywhere there are 2 or 3 humans, we find opportunity to learn how humans function well and how they don't, and how we can be part of that, and how at the heart of it all, every single one of us is looking for the very same thing. We're looking for that place where there is love. Love for the taking, love for the giving, and learning which is which. All those great ones we called in earlier, Gandhi, Mandela, Maya Angelou, Malala Yousafzai, and so many others. The feature they all share, the fuel of their perseverance against all odds, is an unfathomable, indefatigable, unquenchable, unstoppable love. That's what they have in common. And all those people that you remembered, thinking of your stories and sharing your stories, look closely and I will guarantee you that at the root of that thing where you found strength is love. What about you? What about your own story of perseverance? What about your own story of making it through when you thought maybe you couldn't go on? And what about this beloved community at River of Grass? No matter if you signed that book that very first day, 19 years ago, or you came through the door just this morning, what called you here? What keeps you here? No matter what. And when we have ideas about how to hold fast through the troubles of our times, when we have ideas about how to make it through the change that is inevitable, because the only thing that doesn't change in this world is that everything changes and people change. When we have decisions to make about how we're going to move forward, about how we're going to keep going, about what we want to be as the future unfolds. And when we have ideas about that, and we have visions about that, and we have yearnings about that, and sometimes those collide, be assured, every single one of those ideas, even the ones that seem in conflict, every single one is grown of love. For this place, for its people, for its history, for its future, for our place in it. Every single one. To persevere, to persist in a state, enterprise, or undertaking in spite of counter-influences, opposition, or discouragement. Where there is love, there is perseverance, and not for ourselves alone, but for the world we would transform. To persist, continue, carry on, go on, keep going, struggle on, hammer away, be persistent, be determined, see it through, follow through, keep at it, press on, press ahead, do not take no for an answer. Be tenacious, stand one's ground, stand fast, stand firm, hold on, go the distance, stay the course, plod on, stop at nothing, leave no stone unturned, stay in power, indefatigability, here we go, indefatigability, once again, indefatigability, doggedness, obstinacy, tenacity, purposefulness, patience, endurance, diligence, dedication, and commitment for 19 years. Correction, the first 19 years. Can I get an amen for that? Oh, and there's only one antonym for perseverance. To give up. And that's not how we do things around here. Amen. We are building a new way.